Today's guest will be providing us some great insight into what the AAU has accomplished since last year's event that took place in Orlando, Florida. So let's head over to Austin, Texas with Olympic coach, well, should I say former, but you're always an Olympic coach, Mick Haley, who will introduce our guest today. Mick.
Thank you, Ruth. I'm almost got over to Tokyo. Keep working on that. That would be good. We have a special guest today, and it's really exciting for me to be able to introduce Joe Jablonski to you. Joe is with the AAU Sports Development, but he's also been extremely active in the development of the junior game in several parts of the country. Does a number of things now. And Joe, I'm welcome you on, but I'm going to start right out and let you throw a little curveball at John Foreman. You've got some information to throw at John that he's not aware of, and I'm going to throw you a ball to start that by saying, give us a little of your background, where you've been, what you've done, so we know a little bit more about you.
Thanks, Mick. Appreciate you guys having me today. Well, John, I grew up in Buffalo, New York, and actually played one season of volleyball at Medaille College back in almost rally scoring days. That's how I feel nowadays about that. It's been so long, but
back when the program was really good.
Back in the program was just starting, if you will. So we were just scrounging guys up as much as we could to get a team going. So got a little history there with you.
There you go.
Tell us more about your background, Joe. Where did you go from Medaille? You got that great volleyball experience there, and then you took off, and you've just been going up ever since.
Yeah, I started coaching volleyball in Buffalo, New York at my old alma mater, Lancaster High School, and ended up being there for about 2 years, and went to Chicago and coached at Sports Performance for about 10 years. It's kind of where I learned the ways of volleyball as far as training and recruiting and all that good stuff. And then spent 10 years here, a little bit over 10 years now in Dallas, Texas at a club called TAV, Texas Advantage Volleyball. Had a little stint in Orlando for 2 years at OVA. Had a girlfriend that was there, so I moved to Orlando for a couple of years, and obviously that didn't work. So I'm back in Texas, and we're striving here at TAV as always. So.
What can you tell us about the upcoming AAU championships, and anything you want to point out about the championships, including the difficulty just to get to this point?
Well, we've been fortunate because at AAU, we've been open since the pandemic hit. We actually ran a national tournament last year in July during the pandemic. We had about 400 teams. A lot of precautions, a lot of temperature checks, mask wearing, tons of social distancing, hand sanitizer on galore. But we were able to pull off a successful event, and we were excited about that. And fast forward now, 12 months later, here going into June here in a couple of weeks in Orlando, we'll have over 3,000 teams playing at our national tournament this year, which for us is just amazing, and super excited to be able to say over 3,000 teams. It's a number I didn't expect, I guess, or I don't know if our staff expected it, but we're excited to have that many teams and that many families that come to Orlando and kind of get back to a sense of normalcy, if you will.
Bob Bertucci has just been released to go out and recruit finally. He's been chomping at the bit. Bob, what kind of lead is that for you to ask some questions of Joe?
Well, Mick, I'm glad you mentioned that. If I can get my NCAA test taken, I might actually make it to the AAUs this year. That's my plan. Well, Joe, it's good to see you in a little different role. Now, you said you're back in Texas. Are you working with AAU 100%, or is it both TAV and AAU?
I work for AAU full time, and I'm in our sports development department. So my job is to grow membership and to grow tournaments across the country, or grow events. I obviously focus heavily in volleyball, but I also work with basketball, indoor soccer, which we call futsal, and some other sports as well. But here, full time for AAU remotely. And then I also work with the volleyball club, kind of part owner of a club called Texas Advantage Volleyball now. We got about about 50 teams here in the Metroplex and a couple different cities. So
Well, that's great. You're awful busy, but you got the energy to do it. So that's tremendous. So tell us a little bit about last year. I mean, you were the only event that really came off, the only major event that came off last year. How do you see what you did last year compared to this year, and kind of give us some insights there?
yeah, last year, obviously, the biggest question was where we're going to be able to do it. We originally had scheduled it for June. The convention center had called us probably early May and said, we can't have it in June. We're not ready to open. Can we move it to July? So we ended up moving the tournament to July. And like I said, we had just under 400 teams, which was great. A lot of local teams, as you can imagine, teams that drove in from Florida and some surrounding areas. And we had a great event. We had, and you guys have all been to the convention center before, where usually it's about 160 courts in there. We only had about 66 courts in there last year. So we had a lot of space between the courts last year, a lot of ball shagging, I guess is the best way to say it. Balls, they hit, some kid went up and hit a pretty good ball. That ball was rolling for a little while. There was no parents to stop it. So, but we were happy to have the event. We were happy that people came and played. It allowed us to follow some protocols that we used the whole summer with our other sports, basketball, track and field, futsal, a lot of other sports that we had hosted over the summertime. We knew what to do. We partnered with Orlando Health. They did our temperature checks and screening of people and patrons coming in. We obviously had the waivers and everything that everybody had to sign, but everybody was just happy to be there. And, wearing a mask, everybody had to keep a mask on. Players did not have to play with a mask, but if they were on the sidelines, they had to wear a mask. And we'll follow a lot of the similar guidelines this summer. The temperature check, I think, got passed the other day that we're not going to do temperature checks, but you're still going to have to wear a mask as a spectator or as if you're on the bench or a coach or things like that. So we're going to follow, obviously, the local guidelines of Orlando and Florida. And we're just excited to get people in there. And when we say 3,000 teams, that number is kind of crazy, but we're back to our normal 160 plus courts in the convention center. We won't be using Disney this summer. Disney Wide World Sports is not open just yet. So all the play will be at the North and South halls. And we also have the West Hall across the street, across I Drive there. So.
Well, that's great. I mean, the biggest thing was you pulled off this major event last year, even though it was smaller. And to my knowledge, it was a healthy event. Everybody got to participate. They left. Nobody, as I heard, had gotten sick. So that's a pretty big deal for AAU to be able to pull that off, I think.
Yeah, we were excited with the ability to be the first major event since the pandemic had hit and shut everything down back in early March. And yeah, knock on wood, I mean, nothing came back to us and said, hey, my kid, caught COVID or whatever the case may be. And, we were excited to be able to pull it off. Obviously, we limited the number of spectators that we had there. We did some things like that to minimize the traffic flow, but we were just happy to be able to provide an avenue for the kids that were able to play, come down and play.
Well, that's great. And I've heard, now that I'm coaching the guys again, I heard that the field is getting bigger and it's actually a pretty good boys event as well as a million girls teams.
Yeah, we're excited. The boys grow every year, actually, to be honest with you. We've been fortunate to keep those guys growing each season. We're excited to have them part of our championship. We're hoping that they outgrow our girls championship, and we got to do something different and get their own little event going. That's kind of our goal. We actually have a men's professional league coming into play this summer. Lloyd Ball and some of those guys with their group, they're going to bring 5-6 teams down, and they're going to have their final championship there in Orlando during the boys' time as well. So we'll add a little spin to the boys' event and let them see what the future might have with some of those guys.
Oh, great. Well, I'm going to kick it over to Brian because I'm sure he's got a couple of questions for you as well.
Thanks,
Joe,
Bob.
Joe, I'm really impressed with this number, and I can't do a 4-team tournament, let alone 3,000 teams. So let's talk about future. What now that we're coming back, and What do you see? What's some things we can look forward to? What changes do you see being made? Where's the future of junior volleyball?
That's a good question. That might
I
be a
want a
loaded
crystal
question.
ball. I'm asking you the
Yeah.
crystal ball question.
If I had that answer, I might be doing something else besides coaching volleyball right now. So, I think, Brian, the most important thing that I keep hearing from everybody, and this is from players and parents and other coaches and even collegiate coaches, they just want to be in the gym and they want to see each other again. We've been fortunate here in Texas. We've been able to play all season. We started playing in January, and we haven't missed a tournament yet. And we've been fortunate. We traveled across the country a couple times as well. There's precautions in every city that are a little bit different. Some masks, some don't have to wear masks when you're playing, stuff like that. But I think the opportunity to play for the kids this year was great. The biggest proponent that everybody was missing was the recruiting side of it, and the college coaches having to recruit from a TV screen and things like that. And every college coach I've talked to, and I've been on a couple committee calls now, they just want to see the kids' personality. They want to see how they react to good plays and bad plays, and how they react to coaches coaching them, and what happens during the timeout and all that stuff, or mom and dad running water bottles over to them and everything like that. So I think the future, to be honest with you, is try to get back to just that sense of I can walk in the gym and I can see balls flying all across the convention center hall, and I'll be able to see somebody maybe I haven't seen in almost a year now.
What about the way the format of tournaments, or how are clubs changing? Is the completely different? Are clubs changing the way they see they kind of come up with new things, or are people just excited to come back? Or and in terms of tournaments, is the format going to be different? Is there any speculation about that?
Yeah, this year I think it was a combination of everything. Everybody was happy to be able to play and be back. There was a lot of different formats used, 14 pools that were played over 2 courts. So you basically played your 3 matches over 3 hours. You're in and out of the gym in 3.5 hours, which was pretty nice. And it was something different. Parents liked it because if you played in the morning at 8 o'clock, you were out of there by 10:30 and you had the whole day to yourself. I think I think it's good for the young kids, to be honest with you, Brian, because they have that. But the older kids, when you start getting into that high school age, 15, 16, 17, especially our 18s, playing 3 matches in 3 hours at a high level is really hard to do, as you guys can imagine. I would assume that next year things are probably pretty close to being back to normal. Most events that we played in this year that were national qualifiers or national type events, they were normal 4-team pools or 3-team pools, playing 3 sets of 25. We did a lot of the things that we had normally done, but I can't see that anybody would try to change it and go to that, what we call COVID format, if you will. Here in Texas, we use that for a lot of our local events here in the North Texas region, where we played 3 matches in 3 hours. But it was hard for the older kids. There wasn't enough break time, to be honest with you, or what I would call semi-recovery time.
Yeah. What about, I listened to you talking about implementing regulations on such a big tournament. Here in California, the 15th, June 15th, there's going to be several changes about that, what people have to do publicly. But you talked about having to wear masks. What kind of enforcement do you have there?
Yeah, we've kind of gone back and forth with this a little bit, obviously, because every city and every state, like you had said, is changing. Here in Texas, we don't have to wear masks. I went, to the grocery store last night to pick up some stuff for dinner, and I didn't have my mask on because I got my vaccination back in February, so I was good. But you still get that weird look kind of thing from people, and I think for volleyball, our message to everybody is we're happy to have the kids playing, and we want to get through the tournament, and we want to keep the tournament as safe as possible. And that's kind of how we're going to approach the mask policy. We've been to some events where there's been parents that don't want to wear masks. They don't feel like they need to because whether it's a belief or their city and state doesn't mandate them to. But we think with an event of this size, people were hoping to understand that we just want the kids to play volleyball, and we're going to do everything we can to make that happen. So.
Mick?
Well, it's really my pleasure to introduce Jenny Hahn, Executive Director of the JVA. And we've got so many questions for Jenny. I'm going to jump right into this. But Jenny, I have a kind of a three-pronged question. One is, really, what is JVA? Two, how did it come about that people felt like they needed JVA? And three, what is JVA looking at right now as far as providing services to its members? And I'd let you think about this just a second. As I say, in the history of volleyball, and Brian and I are old enough, and maybe Bob, to go back all the way
Oh, I'm old enough too, Wick.
I'm old enough too.
All right, I'll not leave you out, then I'll include you also. But we go back a long way to where there's always been an alternate approach to USA Volleyball's control over volleyball. And as junior volleyball has developed, we first had back in the 70s and maybe even before that, ANBA that appeared, trying to become or get more support for a junior national program. They really started by training coaches. They trained from 9 to 12 coaches who coached for a long time and started junior programs from Atlanta all over the country, Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, in Texas, Chicago, all over the place. And still USA Volleyball maintained control of the regions and that sort of thing. And then we went through a period of time where we had an explosion in number of players. And then it seemed like some things happened. And all at once, we have an alternate group form that seems to be meeting a need of a lot of people out there. And so I just kind of wanted to give the build-up to this. Over the last 15 years, JVA has become quite prominent. And I believe, if I'm not correct, and you can correct me, has not only established its own championship, but has partnered with the AAU championship. So if you can just answer those first three questions I asked, and our other coaches will be asking you more specific questions. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Mike. A couple things. First of all, right at the outset, I want to clarify the word alternate. JVA is not really an alternate. What we are is, our association is a trade association, for a professional trade association for club directors and their staff. Our focus is not on being the NGB or being a mass events group like AAU. Our real mission is to really provide the club directors with resources that they need for them to be successful, for them to grow, and to be profitable. And I guess that's the why. We started way back when, and in a sense, we didn't want to be an alternate to USA Volleyball. We wanted to be an advisory group. There were decisions that were being made that weren't always beneficial for the kids or the clubs. And we thought, well, let's just form an advisory group and we'll work with USAV. And due to circumstances, some of it we probably could have controlled, a lot of it we couldn't have controlled. We ended up kind of taking a divergent path. So, and I feel, and we all felt, the original group that met, there was about 33 club directors that met to talk about it. We felt that there really was a place in the world of volleyball for an independent association for junior volleyball. Somewhere that, we could speak, similar to the AVCA serves a purpose for college coaches. We felt that that was really important, and that was our goal. And I mentioned AVCA. We're actually a partnership with them. All of our members are also members of AVCA because we feel our missions align quite similarly. But our main focus is education, resources, networking is huge, bringing clubs together and talking about the issues and what keeps them up at night, what they're proud of. Insurance is a resource that we never thought we'd be in the insurance business, but we found that we could offer the clubs an event insurance that was all inclusive. If you want to play a USAV event, everybody has to be a member of USAV. If you want to play an AAU event, everybody has to be a member of AAU. If you're in a JVA event with JVA insurance, you can be USAV, you can be AAU, you don't even have to be JVA. You could be the church team across the street. We just want it's just very welcoming, very inclusive rather than exclusive. And our members, our clubs that belong to us, we make regulations, send out guidelines. We don't want to get into a lot of bureaucracy. However, we do have rules and regulations when it comes to coaches certification and background screenings and safety protocols, policies, things like that. So basically that's what we're here for. We started hosting events, and Mick, you mentioned a championship. Our World Challenge it's not meant to be a national championship. It's just a mid-year kind of our crown jewel championship. And unfortunately, convention centers are only so big. You can only get so many teams in. And we were struggling with who do we accept and who don't we accept. And what we heard from our member clubs is that they wanted to have a World Challenge type tournament in their area. So we do have 5 events that we host. But those events also fund our resources and the programs that we offer, as well as cover our administrative staff in our offices. One of the things you asked Mick is, why JVA? And I think I mentioned the independent group, the independent voice, where we don't have more than one hat on our head when we're sitting down at the table and talking about what's good for club volleyball. And the other thing that's been really wonderful is the networking. Clubs getting together and sharing ideas. And it's been really interesting because you guys are all amazing coaches. We're all super competitive, but at the same time, we realize that we need to work together. We need each other to thrive. So it's really interesting. We'll have a pre-event conference with a group of club directors, and then the next day they're battling out on the court and yelling at the referee because they're letting them get away with that. So, but it's a great group. I love our members. And the other thing that our group does is we all share our resources. A lot of the content we develop, but the majority of the content that we provide through webinars, our publications, our seminars, our sessions at the AVCA convention, they come from our member clubs. And, they share their knowledge with everybody else. And that's our biggest resource, is our members too. Mick, did I miss anything there?
Yeah, because he went blank, so it must have been something you really hit.
He dozed off.
Yeah, you did quite well, Jenny. And the only thing that maybe one of the other coaches can touch on when we get there, I'm going to turn it over to Brian Gemolero right now, but Brian, you might want to think of Ruth or Bob asking about cost relative to opportunity there. So Brian, why don't you take it over?
Okay, I was muted. Can you hear me?
Yes, it can.
Yeah, okay. My question, it really is about club volleyball right now. Where do you see it? What do you see now? It's so different in so many states. What do you see? What are you recommending to your members? And where do you see it in the summer or in the fall? Have you any predictions, any ideas, any crystal balls, whatever you might come up with? How are you advising right now?
So we've hosted a number of webinars. One was specifically directed to the indoor programs, and the other one is directed to the beach programs because they have different, different protocols and procedures that they're going to need to follow. And it's, Brian, it's bob and weave. Every state is different. We recommend that every club, obviously their athletes are there. And Ruth, you mentioned, some clubs might be starting to kind of come in under the wire and get kids in ahead of time before they're able to. They want those kids back to be part of their program. I mean, that's the worst thing to do is to, cause harm to your kids or to have a cavalier attitude about their safety.
Ladies who work with recruiting services, helping athletes get seen and get signed. Our first is Sue Weber from the NCSA Sports, is their partner, event partner director, and Sam Walensky from My Recruiting Solutions is the recruiting coordinator for that group. And we're going to dive right in here, ladies, but welcome to both of you. My first question.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, you're welcome. My first question to both of you is, why are recruiting services helpful? And do blue chip athletes need your services? Sue, will you start, and then we'll go to Sam.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So again, appreciate all of you to have us on today. I know Sam and I were very excited to come on the show and be a part of this. And as far as recruiting services, right now there's a ton of uncertainty and unknowns. And I know that college coaches are thinking the same thing. Like, I don't know what's going on sometimes. So while we may not know all the answers either, we do provide information, we provide updates, education, and sometimes just someone to talk to, right? So talk through the what's going on. Sometimes I feel like a psychologist, even though I'm not a psychologist at all. But it's helpful. It is helpful to talk through the options, talk through the divisions, not just Division I, but what's going on with Division II or NAIA or junior college. So I think that's something that people are just in search of, is education and information. And then a lot of people here for NCSA, they don't realize that we offer more than just recruiting services. We do SAT and ACT help. We do college funding help through separate partners. We do tons of free webinars with guest speakers and motivational speakers. So it's kind of beyond just recruiting services too.
And Sam?
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Kind of echo off what Sue said. It's a lot of that. And it's like when you're coaching. I mean, I was a college coach for 20 years, so I kind of provide that guidance and that piece of it at different levels as well. And in helping players and parents alike through what schools should they be focusing on, having the hard discussion about what can they afford to pay for school. It's all the different levels that we work with, just as Sue does, and helping them guide them through that process. And it's teaching life skills and keeping in touch with them afterwards. How are they doing? When they need somebody to talk to, when their parents need somebody to talk to, probably as well, a lot of the times right now. And then, Nick, you mentioned the blue chip piece. We actually, and I'm sure Sue has this too, we have quite a few blue chip kids that we are actually working with that at the end of the day probably don't need us, to be quite frank. But with this COVID situation, we've seen this transfer portal the last couple of years, and it's going to blow up even more with everything that has happened if kids aren't doing the right homework and trying to figure out what's the right fit and where's the right place for them. So that's a reason why we have a few of these blue chip kids, even with us, even though volleyball wise, they could figure out where they need to be on their own.
Yeah, I'll agree with that, Sam. It's not an issue of do they get exposure or do they have interest. It's more about decision making, consultation for sure.
Absolutely.
Great. And the second question I have is, do you have a ranking or a qualification system within your service that you use? And Sam, would you go first on that?
Sure, I'd be glad to. We do evaluations on our players. And for the record, we just don't take everybody. We have actually told some people no, that we are not able to help you based on different circumstances. And even based on, we've had some people that have reached out that just have not played volleyball at a high level or in the club system, and they're just not going to be able to find us a home, quite frankly. So we're very honest. I have an evaluation sheet that I've put together that we will watch film if they're from all over the country. We do have people that we have a court in our office here in Southern California. So people will come in and we'll do an evaluation process. I work with them on the court, then we talk with them in our office area. And then, Kara and I travel throughout the country when we were able to travel and had a club season. And there will be times when there are families that will reach out to us, know we'll be at an event, and will ask us to come and watch and do an evaluation that way as well.
And Sue?
Yep. Similar, a little different, but similar to what Sam in my recruiting solutions does. But we have 8 volleyball specific recruiting coaches that work for NCSA. We do multiple sports, so football, basketball, volleyball, but for volleyball specifically, we have 8 volleyball recruiting coaches that watch film, that have phone calls with these families and kind of go through what they're doing well, what they want to continue working on, and then what kind of divisions they're probably going to get the most interest from. So that's mainly through the video, but we do go to events as well. Like Sam said, when we could go to events, we'd have a booth there. We could go out and watch our clients play and actually get that live evaluation, but it's mostly through the videos that they send in to us. So we're kind of reliant on them updating their videos as well. But our recruiting coaches have all coaching, playing experience from junior college to Division I. We have an ex-Division I compliance officer on our team. We have a wife of our Division II coach on the team. We have a parent that has 2 kids playing Division I volleyball and basketball. We have an incredible team here. So we use all our backgrounds and experiences to help the families with any information that they need.
Great. I'm going to pass the mic over.
Yeah, it's great to hear how much you both obviously care about young kids, your players, both. And it's also impressive that you are ex-players and coaches. And I actually do remember, Sue, when you played. I was trying to play that off earlier, but I do remember. But I have a couple questions. Who is this geared toward? And you kind of touched on that. And my second question is, how do you get an athlete placed? And Sue, start with you, and Sam, you can follow up and see if you can handle both of those questions.
All right, perfect. Well, NCSA is kind of a 3-pronged service. So, or a company. So our main, what everybody hears is the individual memberships for student athletes and their families and the guidance along that way. But we also have a high school and club service that is called Team Edition. And we piloted that probably 3 or 4 years ago that helps high school coaches and club coaches kind of track their athletes and their progress and just kind of keep a track of everything. And then we also have a coach relations department. So they talk to college coaches. What are your preferences? What are your roster openings? And that helps us as recruiting coaches on our side understand that whole system. So a little complicated, but our main service probably is those individual memberships with families. But we also do help high school club coaches and college coaches. And then how do we get an athlete placed? Well, we don't guarantee anything, right? We cannot guarantee that you will get a spot on a roster with scholarship, right? We will help you with that process. So one of our main things that we use is a technology we call Recruit Match. So within NCSA, we're kind of a technology company as well, where we put in the student athletes' preferences. So they go through this on their profile and check off, I want to stay in Illinois, or I want to have a big school. So they put all their preferences in, we also take into account the recruiting coaches evaluation. So which divisions could they play in? And then the college coaches preferences. So if you guys with college coaches would put, I'm done recruiting seniors, you would not get any seniors pushed to you. And then also the college coaches admissions. So all four of those things go in this algorithm, which gives the student athlete their highest matches. And then we push their profile link out to their highest matches. So that's the big process, and then the consultation along with that.
Sam?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what Sue said is what we do as well. We start off with our premier service, we start off with like an initial consult, and we are in continuous conversation with our families and our kids. It varies every week, every 2 weeks, once a month, depending on the grad year, but figuring out where it is they want to be, what are their goals? Some people we work with want a leg up into a top-notch academic school. Like we just had one of our kids in 22 commit to an Ivy. That was her goal. We had a young lady as a senior who just wanted, a top-notch D3 academic school. We have others that there's a financial piece that's important, paying for school. So we have those conversations and then look at film, do the evaluation. We have software as well called scoutscholar.com. It's actually free for anybody to use. The kids that we work with, they're put on it, and then we help develop that list, and they're able to go on there and keep everything organized as well. So everybody has a different, finite goal in mind as to what they're looking for, and we help guide them, location, fit, level, and also keeping it real with them through that as well. So that is our goal at the end of the day. So we work with everybody, like you said, from D1 to D2 to Division III to NAIA, even junior college kids. And then we continue with them when they're looking for a four-year institution as well, which is similar to what Sue and NCSA is doing as well.
I as a college coach for 32 years at the same school, recruiting services were very, very important to me. I wanted to rely on their ability. For example, Ruth Nelson has a program of how to evaluate an athlete. And both of you might want to call Ruth and so that when you send people out, they can be trained on how really a good eye, because she's had so much experience. But with me, what I really wanted was to see how the recruiting service ranked a player, what they saw in them. And sometimes we agreed and sometimes we didn't, but we had a good feel about, over the years, they spend so much time and this player can do this or do that and all that. We would gladly be of any service as master coaches to help you with this, but it was so important to me as a coach to really understand how they felt this person would be placed, what abilities they really had. So, do you feel comfortable with your ranking service if a college coach called you and said, tell me about this player, or do you put it in the profile of the player itself? Sam, let's start with you.
Either or.
No, that is, Sue touched upon like reaching out to coaches and finding out needs. Kara and I do that all the time as well. I've been texting or, having some people email me or call me before this, and we have those conversations. And, I'm fortunate that I got to serve as a coach for 20 years. And I just had that conversation this weekend with a coach who said, Sam, if you were back at Eastern Illinois, would you have looked at this kid? Or when you were at Mississippi State, would you have looked at this kid? And those are the conversations we're having. And I always look at it's nothing personal. Like when I share names and information and video, tell me what you think, tell me what you like. If not, that's okay. I might have somebody else, because all of you as former coaches and current coaches on this call, have your style and what you need that are going to fit the needs of your specific program. So now there will be times they'll ask me about a kid and I will be point blank, I don't think she can play at your level. I have coaches ask me that all the time, and I'll be like, right now, I don't feel we have anybody that meets your needs. If that changes, I will be sure to reach out to you. However, we have some babies. I like to refer to the babies as like the 23s, 24s, I guess.
Sure.
Maybe you need to keep an eye on them right now. Here's where they are.
Yeah, Sue, but specifically, what I really liked, and most coaches liked it right on your evaluation of the kid. this young athlete could play Division I as a back row specialist, a top 20 team. This player could play top 50. You know, we had different systems that we saw over the years, and it was really helpful. Do you have any component of that?
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's internal, so similar to what you guys do as college coaches and what I did. We have our internal notes and our internal rating system, but we also shared that at least the evaluation part with the families, and then the college coaches can see that on the searching, right? So they'll see the match percentage, and they'll see our internal notes of evaluation. So when we, as a recruiting coach, we use our backgrounds and everything of watching them play and the conversations that we have with those families, and write a little bio in that saying she's interested in studying, you know, pre-med. She's, you know, whatever her preferences are, but also then our opinion. She has great ball control. She's working on her foot speed, you know, whatever they have shared with us too. So I think that's another component of it, but also the stats, you know, the jump stats. I think we partner with AVCA to get that VPI number, which is important information, but a lot of people don't understand what it is. So we're trying to get that more out there, as well as Adidas Experience. So Adidas Experience is one of our partners that goes to the Windy City Qualifier, Colorado Crossroads, and Pacific Northwest, and measures their jump approach and arm speed and height. So obviously those are components that we want to verify, but then we also have our internal evaluation that we share with college coaches too.
The guest list. Now, let's take a look at what our guest today will be talking about. Let's head over to Austin, Texas, with former Olympic coach Mick Haley, who will be introducing our special guest today. Mick?
Well, I don't know who you got there with you, Ruth, but I'll go ahead.
Hey, it wasn't
my
Trump.
pleasure.
Hey, it wasn't Trump like last time.
Yeah, Trump's not trying to get on again, but our guest is even better. We have Jamie Morrison with us today, and little background on Jamie. I met him in 2004. He showed up at USC, and we immediately got him involved. As he said earlier when we were talking, I tried to pay him, but he just wanted to volunteer. So I thought that was a pretty good deal, and it turned out to be a very good deal. But since 2004, Jamie Morrison has really had a whirlwind lifestyle here. He went from USC to coaching club in Los Angeles area. He was at, I believe, Concordia and Irvine as assistant coaches with Paula Weishoff for a while. He went to our USA national team as an assistant coach, and I got to watch him in action in Switzerland, handling the middle blockers for USA. Phenomenal job as a teacher and coach there. He did some pro work overseas in Turkey. I think with Giovanni Gaetti, who actually worked camps for us when I was coaching the national team in 97 through 2000. Eventually ended up as the head coach of Netherlands for a year or so, has done that, and now has been traveling around the world. And one of my favorite places, New Zealand, has come back to the United States to be a pro coach. And yet I read an article, I read something that said something like this: Jamie Morrison hired as volunteer at the University of Texas. And the question I have to start with, Jamie, is how do you get hired to volunteer? Now, I tried to do that at SC, but you get headlines for this. So give us a little quick information on that, and then we'll move
Yeah.
on.
First, I got to rewind to the beginning of this. You're talking about 2004, and I think there's branches in your life that could go in different directions. But I was about 48 hours from being an accountant for the rest of my life, and I owe that thanks to Mick Haley and Liz Town Gilbert, who was the assistant there at the time. And I got a call from you being like, "Hey, come down here before you sign something." And I remember driving down to LA and just, I don't know, the amount of respect you showed towards the position you were trying to create and the enthusiasm towards volleyball kind of drove me to stick around in volleyball for a little bit. And then it was just the slippery slope, or down or up. I don't know how you look at it, to get where I am today. So Mick, thank you. I owe you a lot.
Well, you've done a lot, so crying out loud. So
Yeah.
talk about this Texas thing now.
Yeah. So the Texas thing. Yeah, I was in Virginia Beach hanging out with Kim Rue, my girlfriend's family, and we were laying in bed, and 9 o'clock, I got a random text from Eric Sullivan, who I've been friends with for a while, just because of connections with the men's national team. It was just like small talk for 10 minutes, just like, "Hey, how are things going?" And I'm like, "I know there's more to this, Eric. What's going on?" And he was like, "What do you think about coming down to be our volunteer?" And it was a very stringent interview process, let me tell you. And I just said, "Hey, I got Athletes Unlimited going on. I said I can give you guys 6 weeks. And I know this group probably isn't in a gym as much, but if you're out there coaching, and I don't know, there's days where you're like, man, I don't want to do this. Like, if you're not doing it for a while, you will miss it. Just the feeling of being in the gym, the feeling of giving back, the feeling of giving feedback, the feeling of light bulbs going off in your players' eyes." And I was just jonesing for that. So yeah, I was going to be in the zip code of Texas, and I've known these guys for a while, and I just said, "Yeah, absolutely. If you'll take me for 6 weeks, and I'll be gone for 2 months of it. If it makes sense for you guys, I'll come do it." So here I am. So there's the stringent interview process of being a volunteer and getting hired.
Well, think of that. That's been 16 or 17 years, and you've just been everywhere. Now this new venture, Athletes Unlimited. Bob, you want to start the questioning on that?
Yeah, thanks, Mick. Jamie, I got a couple of questions. It's a little bit new to me. We haven't heard a whole lot about it, so maybe you can kind of enlighten us. Where's the funding coming for this league?
Yeah, it's a mix. So John Patrickoff and Jonathan Soros were kind of the founders of this, and they got together and they wanted to build a athlete-centered league, and they wanted to kind of promote women's sports in here. So there's some private funding, and then it's a mix of kind of an investing group, and then there's some sponsorships that happen. So that's where the majority of it's coming from.
How about player selection? Where are the players coming from?
Yeah, it's a mix. So it's funny because I got to coach Shayla Castro when I was in Turkey with Giovanni, like Mick was talking about, and I completely forgot she was a part of it. There's some high level players that have done some really good things. So it's a mix of kind of those. It's some recent college grads. It's kind of a combination of a kind of bunch of different people. And the player selection, and I think we're going to talk about this later, it's a very player driven league. So the selection was kind of by an executive committee that is made up of players, and kind of we're going out and finding them. And Chris McGowan is involved as the director of sports. So it's finding the players, and then they're kind of approved by the Players Council, and then we formed this group of 44.
Well, what's the goal of this league and the program in general?
Yeah, I think the goal is, I mean, one, like I said, to create a player-centric league. One, I think it's to two, I think, prove that it can sustain, and then we can keep this thing going. But it's to give the athletes an experience of coming in here and competing on home soil. I think is probably their number one overriding principle.
All right, and team selection, I heard it's a little bit different than what we've ever been experiencing before. So why don't you talk about that?
I was actually trying to like follow up on a couple majority of the team selection, but I was like, man, how are we doing the first week? But basically what's going to happen is like, because the other weeks make sense, but the first week I'm like, how are we picking this? So there's basically 4 team captains that are going to happen. And the way I've been wording this, it's kind of like when you go down and you do like the King of the Beach style, where you have wins and losses and you have certain points in this thing, like when you're going to the beach. It's that combined with the NBA draft in the last few years, where like LeBron and I don't know, Kevin Durant are the captains of the team, and they're drafting their teams instead of East-West. So at the beginning of the week, basically, there's a draft with 4 different captains, and it's kind of a snake. It's a little bit different than a snake that kind of goes around. And basically, they're drafting from the player pool. So every single week, teams are going to change.
Does anybody and then feelings hurt when you line them up along the fence like this?
Yeah.
doing any of the picking. It's all these player captains.
The player captains are there. We are there as a resource if they want it. I don't know if we're going to be allowed to like sit here like you should do this, but it's kind of we can have a practice draft beforehand. We can talk about what's important. I think Joe Trinzi is going to win this one. He's one of the coaches and just probably one of the geniuses of analytics in the world. So I'm sure he'll draw up some machine learning computer program to pick the best team. So yeah, so we can have I don't know, we can give advice in it, but it's up to the players. If they want to go against our advice, they're more than welcome. But yeah, so it'll draft this way, and then basically what happens is you'll go out and compete. We'll practice for 3 or 4 days with those groups, and then we'll go out and play 3 matches, one against each team. And the players are going to accumulate points, and the most points are for winning and losing. So you win, lose sets, you get points for those. So each set you win, you get 40 points, I think. And then you also get points for the overall point differential. So if we're playing 3 sets, if one team won 75 points and the other team, that'd be 3-0 probably, the other team won 70. The team that got the more combined points will get some points. And then there's also statistics. They're going to accumulate those. And kind of at the end of the week, you're going to have a leaderboard of top players now. So you played everyone, you have these win-loss points. And then the next week, the top 4 become the captains. And you redo this whole thing again. And then you do it 5 times. And by the end of it, you have this grand champion player who is the king of the Athletes Unlimited. I don't think they're calling it the queen of Athletes Unlimited. I don't think they're calling it that. And if they do, I copyrighted it right now. But that's the way it's going to work. And then, yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, maybe Joe Trinzi has this figured out. You know, Joe went to, he played volleyball with my son at Stevens Institute of Technology.
Oh, really?
So I can imagine these guys have some kind of mathematical, computation that figures this all out, but it sounds Greek to me.
They really simplified it. So if you go on, I think there's a pretty good summary on their Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter feed just of a video of just kind of how this is going to work. So instead of it being this like crazy computational thing, it's more like, hey, you get a kill, you get 12 points. You get a dig, you get 6. I can't remember exactly what the scoring is, but a hitting error, you get minus points. So you could literally, I don't think they're going to do this, but you could almost make it like a cartoon, like bam, plus 12, bam, plus 6. Like, but so I think they've done their best to simplify it. And again, it's an interesting format. We'll see what happens within it, but it should be fun.
Oh, great. Thanks.
Jamie, this is Brian. I'm not sure who I cheer for at the game. Who do I cheer for?
So
do I cheer for a player?
That's a good question.
That was what part of their founding conversation was when they had this, was just they believe that there's less people that are a team fan, and I'm not sure I 100% agree with it, but there's a lot of people that are LeBron James fans. And they are a LeBron James fan, whether he's with the Lakers, whether he's with the Cavs, or he's with the Heat. Like, and I will attest to this. Like, I am a LeBron James fan, and I will follow the team that he's on just because I respect him as a player. So they're playing around with that format of, hey, are people going to pay attention to the athlete as opposed to necessarily the team that they're on? And also, just you were talking about goals for this league and sustainability. When I look at why a professional league hasn't sustained in the United States, it's more because of what we envision professional as. It always has to be the 105-seat arena. It has to be, I don't know, like you're taking a charter bus from here to there. And I just think this format allows something that's sustainable, where you can do it in one place, where the teams kind of rotate and you have a little bit of difference in that. And like in COVID times, you can do it in front of nobody if you need to. And that's the norm. So like, and like, I'd hate to say, I don't want to say this, COVID's the worst thing, obviously, that has happened to human civilization in the last 30 years. But in terms of this league, it kind of helps, because the norm right now is for the NBA to be playing in front of nobody and the NFL to be playing in front of 1,000 fans. So, so it's kind of this perfect storm where I think there's a chance of this sticking.
Wow.
The purpose of the league, now the Pro League came about to allow American players to play in the U.S. or national team level players without having to go overseas, given the COVID restrictions. Is that correct? Is that true?
No, the impetus of the league was around before COVID. So COVID was just kind of a side effect of it. I think the timing of it, when they wanted to do it, was after the Olympics. So I think that threw a little wrinkle in things, of kind of having the Olympic, I don't know, wave of this, and then this Pro League coming up, and also the players. I don't know, I don't know what they're going to do, but some of the players I think that might be retiring were thinking, hey, this is a nice way to give back to American volleyball. So I think there was a piece of that going on. So it wasn't really the COVID thing, and it wasn't necessarily not to go play overseas. It's just our US players have been starving for a chance to be able to stay at home and play professionally, and I don't know, be able to have their life plus be able to be a volleyball player. And I think that's been really hard to do, because I can attest to it. Like, once you form a friendship in the United States and California, and then you're gone for 7 months, and it's like this constant yo-yo of going back and forth. They've just been starving for the chance to be at home, to play in front of their friends and family. I think maybe from the time you're 22, some of these players, once they leave college, maybe they haven't played in front of their family for 3 years until the Olympics or something along those lines. And that's a powerful thing.
And why Dallas? Why did you pick Dallas?
Yeah, it was originally supposed to be in Nashville, and I know that was kind of advertised out there, but I think COVID threw a wrench in this too. There was an arena there that had been being used as a women's shelter. And the arena basically said, hey, we need to keep this around because of COVID as a women's shelter. And that's a worthwhile cause. So it's not like anybody in the situation was angry. So we had to go kind of find a new home. And Dallas kind of reached out and said, hey, we'd like to have you here. And it happened actually pretty quickly. And hats off to Dallas for making it happen.
You know, before I turn this over to Ruth, I wanted to know, I was a little confused in the beginning. Were you saying that you should have become an accountant, or you should have stayed? Did Mick
based on my
steer you
experience at
wrong?
USC with Mick, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was the right decision.
No, I'm kidding.
I think, and this is, I mean, I don't know, if I were to give a message, I like getting on and giving messages to people. Like, I think when I was growing up, I thought that because I didn't have this crazy good playing career, I wouldn't be able to make it as a volleyball coach, both because of reputation and experience. And I'm obsessed at being really good at things, whatever it is. It can be how to cook, and I'm going to obsess about it. But once I got into volleyball, I just worked really hard, and I got really good at data volley and data video, and they gave me an opportunity to be with the national team. And then once I got there, it was like, man, like, I really want to be really good at motor learning and how to form practice. And then I got really good at that. And then we were around some great sports psychologists, and I really want to dive into this. So just regardless of upbringing, regardless of your playing career, just if you put the work in, you could be pretty good at whatever you do, would be my message. So yes, right decision. And thank you, Mick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to turn this over to Ruth.
Well, this will be the first time in 38 weeks that I actually have time to ask a question, because these
You better have a
boys,
lot of them. That's all I got to say.
that's exactly right. But I do want Mick, I know he didn't get a chance to really ask a question. I'm going to cover kind of the TV and so forth, but Mick, I'm going to throw it to you and give you 1 of my minutes.
Okay, well, here's a good one, Jamie,
It's
because
February 27th through March 29th. So it's 5 weeks, correct?
Yeah, of competition. So we had there on Friday. We're in a pretty strict quarantine right now.
Okay.
So at home, and then we head to the league on Friday and start at practice on Monday or Tuesday, depending on when those negative COVID tests come through.
Okay, how many players on the team?
There are 44 total players in the pool, so 11
Okay.
players per team.
Okay, so we're going to do 11. All right, so we have 4 captains. I'm getting
Yep.
this so we know exactly what we're going to do. 4 captains, and they're going to be able to select based on a certain draft. All right,
Yep.
now, what happens to the coaches? Are you being drafted too on what team you get to coach?
No, like I said earlier, I would have loved that. I think it'd be really interesting to see, like, are we the 7th person? Are we the last person? Like, what is the players' view of the value of a coach? Yeah, no, we are, and I think we're assigned to the
Okay.
colors of teams. So it's like orange, purple, blue. I can't remember the 4 colors, but we're assigned to one, and then I think the captains are assigned to each kind of randomly.
thanks for joining us today, and be sure to tell your friends about our weekly Buzz News Show. A special shout out to the 80 coaches and leaders in our sport for being guests on our show over the past 57 weeks. See you next week for Master Coaches Series 3 Remix Flashbacks.